العلم أشراف مطلوب وطالبه لله أكرام من يمشي على قدم. العلم نور مبين يستضيء به أهل السعادات والجهال في الظلم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، أما بعد. طيب، الحدث ما هو؟ أو الطهارة، ما هي الطهارة؟ What is طهارة؟ ارتفاع الحدث وما في معناه وزوال الخبث. طيب، so طهارة consists of three things. رفع الحدث, to get rid of the impurity, whether it's major or minor. وما في معناه, or anything that has the same meaning as getting rid of a hadath, or the major and the minor, although it is not really getting rid of it. For example, tayammum or ghusl, second ghusl and so on, or second wudu, when the person is already on wudu. And zawal al-khabath, to get rid of the khabath and to remove najasat. طيب, al-khilafu kam anwa'. Khilaf is of how many types? Two. What are they? لفظي and معنوي. Okay, what is khilaf معنوي? And it actually makes a difference, i.e. Take your time. Different names for tawheed. Would that be lafzi or ma'nawi? Lafzi, صحيح. أحسنت. lafzi. طيب, ma'nawi, another example. Both of you, go on. Types of water. نعم. طيب, another example, اسمعي. قر. نعم, قر. So khilaf al-ma'nawi is the khilaf that actually makes a difference. Like now, we've studied that water is of how many types in the book? 3 types. And we studied the second opinion, which is the stronger opinion, wallahu a'lam, is what? 2 types. So there's a big difference, because the types of water that we come across when we're studying the book is going to be different to when we were saying that it is of 2 types. However, the second type is khilaf lafzi, when it doesn't really make a big difference. For example, a niyyah. Is it a condition or is it a rukn in the salah? Whether you say it is a condition for the salah, or whether you say it is a rukn, a pillar of the salah, it makes no difference. Why? Because you need to have pillar. Call it whatever you want. And the reason why I mention this is because the mas'ala that we're studying now, or that we studied last week, is that ma is of 3 types according to the mu'allif. Therefore, he mentioned different types of water. Those types of water, some of them were tahur, some of them were what? Tahir. However, when we studied the second opinion, which is the stronger opinion, is that water is only of 2 types. Either water that is pure, that you can use to purify yourself and drink with and clean with and so on, or water that is najis, water that is dirty. So we found types of water in the second type that fit into what? In reality, just water, tahur. And we don't need to say they're disliked and so on and so forth. طيب. قلتان. The mas'ala of قلتان. Who can summarize this mas'ala? Salman.
With regards to the quantity of water, there's 2.
Before the quantity, what is قلتان? Is it 2 sun shells, 2 moons, 2 what?
200 liters.
So it's a measure of water.
No.
Excellent. طيب. Around 200 liters roughly. تفضل.
With regards to if water touches, if there's ma' qaleel and ma' kathir, if it comes across najasa, there's different scenarios.
Excellent, ahsant. So, qullatan means basically you've provided a barrier between water, al-ma'ul kathir, water that is a lot, and water that is not a lot. And then you said that it has different scenarios. What possible scenarios are there?
The first scenario is if a najasa touches, it goes into ma'katir.
Ma'ul kathir. So we have 20 litres, like we have about 300 or 400 litres of water, 6 bathtubs. And then the najasa goes into it. What?
If it doesn't change, then it still remains as.
Ahsant. So that big that swimming pool that we've thrown najasa in there, if it doesn't change it, which it won't, it stays tahur.
If it does change it, then it becomes
Najis,
najis.
ahsant. That's ma'ul kathir. Ma'ul qalil?
Whether it touches or it doesn't touch it, or sorry, whether it changes it or it doesn't change it, it's going to be najis.
Ahsant. Limada? Just because of it touching it. Just because of it touching it. Naam, because it's ma'ul qalil, naam. Because it's ma'ul that is qalil, then it changes according to the madhab. Lakin, we said that water, whether it's qalil or kathir, the most important thing that we take into consideration is what? Has it changed or not? Is it as it was or not? So don't get confused. We've only studied one khilaf. And that one khilaf is what? Water being 2 types or water being 3 types. That's the only khilaf that we've studied. طيب. طيب. The last mas'ala that we talked was the mas'ala of ash-shak. The mas'ala of ash-shak. What should a person do if they're stuck between whether this water is najis, or they've got 2 types of water? One is najis and one is tahur. But they don't know which one is najis and they don't know which one is tahur. What should they do? Naam. According to the madhab, naam, we leave the water that we have, we leave both of them. لا بناء على اليقين. Base it on yaqeen. We base it on yaqeen. We find najis and pure and we don't know which one, we base it on the yaqeen, the one we're sure of. وإن اشتبه طهور. What about if we have what about if ولا يشترط للتيمم? Why does the Shaykh say, when he talks about that last mas'ala, why does he say ولا يشترط للتيمم? And it's not conditioned that he needs to make tayammum. إغاقتها يعني عفوا إغاقتها ولا خلطها. He doesn't need to throw it away, nor does he need to mix it. Why does he even mention this? Sulaiman. Naam. The reason for this is because from the conditions of tayammum is asli you need to have no water. فَلَمْ تَجِدُوا مَاءً. If you have water, then in reality you haven't fulfilled that condition. طيب. Okay. Now, then the Shaykh says, وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَ طَاهِرٌ. What about if we have water that is tahur and water that is tahir? Okay.
One with the tahur water.
According to the madhab, we said you make wudu once using tahur and tahir. Like if we say water is of 2 types, does this mas'ala even come into it? It doesn't come into it because they say either it's najis or tahur. As for this 3rd section of tahir, we don't even acknowledge it. طيب. What about when he says وَإِنِ اشْتَبَهَتْ ثِيَابٌ طَاهِرَةٌ بِنَجِسٍ مُحَرَّمَةٌ أو مُحَرَّمٍ صَلَّى فِي كُلِّ ثَوْبٍ. With this, what if you mix clothing that is tahir with clothing that is najis or clothing that is stolen? He says you pray 1 salah with each one. Who can explain the Surah Al-Mas'ala as it is in the book? Abdillah.
So if you have clothing, let's say if you have 4 pieces of clothing.
You have 4 garments.
4 garments, let's say 4 clothes. 3 of them, you're certain that 3 of them is najis and 1 of them is pure.
طيب. So you're certain that 3 are najis and 1 is pure.
Yeah. In this case, you would pray with the amount of najis there is and 1 more.
And 1 more. So you would pray how many salah in your case?
In my case, 4.
4. Because how many are najis? 3. What about if you had 10 najis and you had 3 that were tahir? 10 najis, 10 najis. and 3 tahir. 3 times 10. 10 najis, 10 dirty thobes, or 10 stolen thobes. طيب. And then you've got 3 clean ones, or 3 legit ones. 11 times. Why 11 times? 10 on najis. No. Yeah, according to the madhab. And then, do you need to repeat the salah? No. What about the second opinion? What should you do? According to the second opinion, in this mas'ala, you don't need to pray 10 salah or 11 salah. You just do tahari. You try your best to figure out which one is najis and which one's pure. You pray with it, and then you don't need to repeat your salah. No, even if حتى استوى الشك, the one that you're more inclining towards, طيب, pray with one of them, and then and you don't need to make the salah up. طيب, the Shaykh says رحمه الله تعالى رحمة واسعة باب الآنية كل إناء طاهر ولو ثمينا يباح اتخاذه واستعماله إلا آنية الذهب وفضة ومضبب بيهما فإنه يحرم اتخاذها واستعمالها ولو على أنثى. طيب, the Shaykh says رحمه الله باب الآنية. آنية is the plural of إناء. Plural of إناء. And that is a wi'a. It is a vessel or something that water is put into. So al-aniyah, jam'u ina. It is the plural of ina. And ina is something, it's a wi'a, it's something that water goes into. Something that water is preserved in. And the reason why the fuqaha mention this chapter after the chapter of ma' is for 2 reasons. Number 1, there are vessels or ina or pots that are halal to use, and there are those that are not halal to use. And there are those that are najis, and there are those that are pure. So in this chapter they teach us about which ones are pure and which ones are you allowed to use for wudu, and are you allowed to keep, and which ones are you not allowed to use and not allowed to keep. So that is the first reason. The second reason is that water that they've just talked about in Babul Miyah, it needs something to be put in. Water doesn't float around just for the sake of it. It needs something to be put in. So now that he's told us that this water is pure and this water is not pure, he needs to now tell us what water, where can we store this water? And then he's going to teach us the ones that are okay for us to store water in and the ones that we can't use as storage. Qa'idatul Bab, the principle that combines this whole chapter, that will help us understand this whole chapter, that we'll keep coming back to, is called Al-Aslu fil Ina'i Al-Ibaha. Al-Aslu fil Ina'i, or Al-Aslu fil Awani, make it plural, Al-Aslu fil Awani Al-Ibaha Wat-Tahara. Al-Aslu fil Awani Al-Ibaha Wat-Tahara. And this qa'idah is that the default ruling, the asl, the natural position, or the default ruling for any type of vessel, pots, pans, cups that we can possibly use, the default ruling is that they are pure. They are pure and halal to use, and permissible and halal to use. And if we wanted to look at it from another angle, we can generalize the qaida and say, al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha. The asl for all types of things, and we shall see what they are. Like in the asl, the default rule is that we can use and benefit from, because it is permissible. And al-ashya, we can talk about it from another way. We can say things are of four types. Things connected to the Muslim in their day-to-day lives is of four types. Number one, al-ibadat, worship. Number one, al-ibadat, which is worship. And the principle that you can combine all types of ibadah with is al-aslu fil ibadat al-man'. Al-aslu fil ibadat al-man' wal-hadar. And it means that with regards to ibadah, all forms of ibadah are impermissible to perform unless you have evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. All forms of ibadah, all forms of worship are haram to perform unless you have evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah, unless it is legislated. And then you have three other things. Al-mu'amalat, which is dealings, buying, selling, transactions. Al-mu'amalat, that's number two. Number three, al-a'yan. Al-a'yan, and al-a'yan means objects and items, like vessels. That is a'ain, a cup, a pot, a pan. These are a'yan. Tables, buildings, these are a'yan. That is the third. And the last one is al-adat. Al-adat. And al-adat is customs of the people, or the norms. So these three, the last three, the mu'amalat, the a'yan, and the ibad, and the adat, all of these three, circle them and put an arrow and write al-aslu fil ashya'i al-ibaha. The asl for these things is it is permissible. And I will give you an example for each one. For example, al-mu'amalat. Al-mu'amalat. مثلا, I say I want to sell books. I want to sell cars. I want to trade in XYZ. What is the default ruling for this? Right. So all types of employment, for example, the default ruling is that it is permissible, unless we find something that takes it out of the realms of the permissibility to haram, due to it contradicting the Sharia. Secondly, al-a'yan, vessels, for example, that we're talking about today. All types of vessels you can make wudu from. And al-adat are customs of the people. And with the adat, a lot of the things that we do related to our culture, how people live, how people get married, the custom, the norms, these are called adat. All of that is permissible, unless it contradicts the what? The Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not think that having a culture or taking part in cultural activities or gatherings, don't think that it is haram or a bid'ah. No, it is, the asl for it is that it is permissible. So the norms, whether it's with clothing, or the norms for when people are getting married, how they do the nikah, if they do the nikah first and then the walima later on, or the walima first and then the nikah, and so on and so forth. And the fact that they give money and then the family gives half of the money back. These sorts of things are cultural practices. The asl for that, it is halal or haram? Halal. And if a student of knowledge understands this, it will help him mingle in with his community and not be separated from the community. Because, for example, a lot of the elders, they may have certain practices that don't contradict the Sharia. So for you to take part in these events, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with it. So do not think that if it's culture, it's haram. لكن الأصل في العادات الإباحة. طيب. What about if someone says to you, listen, in my culture, daughters don't get inheritance. خلاص. That's just my culture. كذا. What do we say? Haram. Why is it haram? Is it haram because it's a culture, or is it haram because it contradicts the Sharia? Haram because it contradicts the Sharia. طيب. So these three, what was the first one out of these four things? The first one? Al-ibadat. And any type of ibadah is haram unless you have evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. The other three are what? Mubahat. Mu'amalat, adat and a'yan. What is the qa'idah that combines all three? Al-aslu fil ashiya'i al-ibaha. The benefit for a student of knowledge to memorize principles and to act upon principles is that you have 1,000 masail and you can combine them with one qa'idah. It benefits you. That is that. What is the dalil of the qa'idah, right? Dalil al-qa'idah, the dalil for this is the qawl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. In Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 29. هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض جميعا. And the wajh dalala is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah Jalla wa ala is the one that created everything that is on the earth for us. So ما هو الذي خلق لكم ما في الأرض. ما من ألفاظ والعموم أي كل شيء, everything. Also, from another angle, that is في سياق الامتنان. It is called what? في سياق الامتنان. Allah Jalla wa ala is telling us His favors upon us, Jalla wa ala. And when something comes في سياق الامتنان يعم, it shows generality. طيب. Then the Shaykh says رحمه الله تعالى رحمة واسعة. كل إناء طاهر ولو ثمينا يباح اتخاذه واستعماله. In this chapter, he's going to talk about several different things. First, the awani. What vessels can we make wudu from and take advantage of? Can we use and can we benefit from? Then he's going to talk about what ones we cannot take advantage of and benefit from and use, which is gold and fidda. Then he's going to go into the vessels, the aniya and the cutlery of the non-Muslims. Then he's going to the thiyab. Then he's going to go into benefiting from animal skin. What animal skin can we benefit from and what animal skin can we not benefit from fur and so on, fur, hair and cotton or the wool and so on. كل إناء طاهر. Every ina طاهر that is pure, ولو ثمينا, even if it is expensive, ماذا؟ يباح اتخاذه واستعماله. يباح اتخاذه واستعماله. كل إناء you've already studied, صح؟ طيب. طاهر you've already studied, something that is pure. ولو ثمينا, even if it is very expensive. So ولو here إشارة إلى الخلاف. You can write underneath it يشير المؤلف إلى الخلاف في المسألة. He's pointing towards the fact that there's khilaf in it. And remember when we were studying in the Muqaddimah, we were saying that there are some places, he won't say to you, في هذه المسألة خلاف. لكن he will mention letters that point towards khilaf. So low is one, and we're going to study another one today as well, of a low. and hatta, and also wa in. So he's saying to you, every single ina that is pure, even if it is expensive. So by him saying even if it's expensive, you know there's a mafhum what? There's something behind it, which is what? There are those that say if it is thameen, if it is expensive, you cannot what? Use it. Even if it is what? Thameen. Even if it is not thameen. Why? Why can we use a diamond vessel to make wudu from, a diamond jug to make wudu from? Why can we use it? Why can we use it? Why can we use it? Sheikh Muhammad. ها؟ من المباحات. ما هي القاعدة? What is the قاعدة? الأصل في الأشياء الإباحة. صحيح. الأصل في الأشياء الإباحة. Why are we saying you can use crystal ina, crystal vessel that is crystal, or jug that is crystal, or what? Other materials that are expensive, such as diamond. Why? Because the asl is what? طيب. So it is, even if it's expensive, yubahu, it is permissible. ما هو المباح? What is permissible? مباح. What is مباح? حكما. أصول الفقه يستدل. What is مباح? مستند أفهم. أو ما لا يتعلق ما لا يتعلق به أمره ولا نهي بذاته. That which is permissible. There's no command connected to it, nor a prohibition. What is the ruling of you getting out of this room? Mubah. What is the ruling of you drinking water? Mubah. No one can say it's haram for you to drink water. Mubah. So he's saying to use this is yubahu, is permissible. Then he says two things. اتخاذه واستعماله. Who has English translation? What does he say? It's permissible to what? Two things after that.
It is permissible for them is adorning themselves for the husband.
La, you've gone very far. Kullu ina, every ina, right at the beginning of the chapter. The first 4 words.
Except vessels made from gold or silver.
Go back a bit, you've gone further. Right at the beginning of the chapter.
Vessel which is pure can be acquired and used even if it's expensive.
Acquired and used. What is the difference? Because he's mentioned ittikhad and isti'mal. Underline the word ittikhad and underline isti'mal. Al-ittikhad huwa, ittikhad is
وقل رب زدني